Mina held the quiz paper in her shaking hands. The red ink covered almost every line. 23% was written in big numbers at the top. She felt sick looking at it. Around her, other students talked about their scores. Tay got 95%. Hannah got 98. Jean even got a perfect 100. They all seemed so happy and relaxed. For them, physics was easy. For Mina, it felt impossible. "What did you get?" asked Hannah, leaning over to look. Mina quickly folded the paper and put it in her bag. "Not great," she said quietly. The classroom at Kepler Station Research Institute was huge and bright. Through the big windows she could see stars and the curve of Earth far below. This space station was where the best physics students came to study. Mina had dreamed of being here since she was 12 years old. Now she wondered if she made a terrible mistake. Professor Lee walked to the front of the class. He was old and wise, with gray hair and kind eyes behind thick glasses. Everyone respected him. He had written 3 famous books about gravity and space. "I will return your quizzes now," Professor Lee said. "Remember, these tests show how well you understand the basic ideas. If you are struggling, please come see me." Mina sank lower in her chair. She knew that message was meant for her. After class, she walked slowly through the station's halls. Other students passed her, talking excitedly about homework and research projects. They used big words that Mina barely understood. Words like tensor calculus and relativistic mechanics flew around her like birds she could not catch. In the cafeteria, she sat alone with her lunch. The food had no taste. She pulled out her quiz again and looked at the problems. The first question was about Einstein's field equations. She had stared at those symbols for hours, but they looked like a foreign language to her. The second question asked about gravitational waves. She knew what they were, ripples in space and time. But when it came to the math, her mind went blank. Numbers and letters swam around on the page like they were alive. "Mind if I sit?" Mina looked up. It was Kai, one of the smartest students in her class. He was tall and always smiled. His quiz was probably perfect like always. "Sure," she said. Kai sat down with his tray. "Tough quiz today, right?" Mina nodded but did not say anything. "You know," Kai said, "I heard that Dr. Park is looking for someone to help with the lab work on Jupiter Station. It is dangerous work, but it pays well. Maybe you should think about it." Mina knew what he really meant. Maybe you should quit trying to be a real physicist. Maybe you should just do the simple lab work and leave the thinking to smarter people. "Thanks," she said. "I will think about it." That afternoon, Mina had to go see Professor Lee. His office was small and filled with old books. Pictures of famous scientists covered the walls. Einstein, Newton, Hawking, all the great minds who understood the universe in ways she never could. "Sit down, Mina," Professor Lee said gently. "We need to talk." She sat in the chair across from his desk. Her quiz lay open between them like evidence of her failure. "You have been in my program for 8 months now," he said. "Your lab work is excellent. You are careful and precise with experiments. But the theoretical work..." He paused and looked at her with sad eyes. "Math is the language of physics. Without it, you cannot truly understand how the universe works." Mina felt tears starting in her eyes, but she tried to hold them back. "I know you love physics," Professor Lee continued. "I can see it in your eyes when we talk about black holes or quantum mechanics. But love is not enough. You need to be able to speak the language." "I try so hard," Mina whispered. "I study every night. I read all the books. But when I see those equations, my mind just stops working." Professor Lee leaned back in his chair. "Maybe we should consider other options. Engineering, perhaps? Or applied physics in industry. There are many good careers that do not require advanced theoretical work." The words hit Mina like a punch in the stomach. Other options. That meant giving up her dream. That meant accepting that she was not smart enough. "Can I have more time?" she asked. "Maybe I just need to study harder." Professor Lee looked at her for a long moment. "1 more semester," he said finally. "But Mina, you must show real improvement. I cannot let you continue if you are not making progress." That night, Mina sat in her small room looking out at the stars. Earth was a blue marble far below. She had come so far from her home in Seoul, all the way to this research station in space. Her parents had been so proud when she got accepted. How could she tell them she was failing? She picked up her physics textbook and opened it to Chapter 12, Advanced Gravitational Theory. The pages were full of equations that looked like strange art. She tried to read, but the symbols seemed to move and dance before her eyes. Something was wrong with her brain, she thought. Other people could see patterns in these equations. They could follow the logic from one step to the next. But for Mina, It was like trying to read a book written in invisible ink. She closed the book and put her head in her hands. Tomorrow she would try again. She had to. Giving up was not an option, even if everyone expected her to fail. 2 weeks later, Mina sat in the student center staring at a notice on the big screen. It was asking for volunteers to work at the Jupiter Laboratory Station. The pay was good, but there was a big red warning at the bottom. Dangerous work, previous accidents recorded. Most students walked past the notice without looking. Everyone knew about the Jupiter Lab. It was where they tested new gravity machines that often broke down. Last month, a gravity field went crazy and twisted space so badly that rescue teams took 3 days to fix it. The month before that, a student got trapped in a time loop for 6 hours. You are not seriously thinking about that, are you? Mina turned around. Hannah was standing behind her, looking worried. Maybe, Mina said. That is crazy, Hannah said. Only desperate people take jobs there. People who have nothing left to lose. Mina felt her cheeks get hot. That was exactly what she was, desperate with nothing left to lose. The experience would look good on my record, Mina said quietly. Hannah shook her head. Come on, Mina. There are safer ways to get experience. What about the Earth Observation Lab? Or the Materials Testing Center? But Mina was not listening anymore. She was reading the job description again. The Jupiter Lab needed someone to calibrate gravitational field generators. The work involved being alone with dangerous machines that could bend space and time. Most people would run away from such a job. For some reason it felt right to Mina. That afternoon she went to the administration office. The woman behind the desk looked surprised when Mina asked for the Jupiter Lab application. Are you sure, dear? The woman asked. We have other research positions available. Much safer ones. I am sure, Mina said. The application was short but scary. It asked about her emergency contacts and whether she had any medical conditions. There was a whole page about the dangers of working with gravity fields. Another page about insurance and what would happen if she got hurt. At the bottom she had to sign her name and write the date. Her hand shook a little as she wrote Mina Kim in careful letters. The next day Dr. Yuna called her to her office. Dr. Yuna was Mina's advisor, a kind woman who always tried to help struggling students. I got your application, Dr. Yuna said. She did not look happy. Mina, this is not the right choice for you. Why not? Mina asked. The Jupiter Lab is not for beginners. The students who work there are usually in their final year. They have perfect grades and years of experience. You. She paused, trying to find nice words. You are still learning the basics. Mina felt ashamed, but she did not change her mind. Professor Lee said I need to show improvement. Maybe working with real equipment will help me understand better. Dr. Yuna was quiet for a long moment. She looked at Mina's file on her computer screen. All those low test scores and failed quizzes were right there in black and white. The Jupiter Lab supervisor is Dr. Min, she said finally. He is very strict. If you make any mistakes, he will send you back immediately. I understand, Mina said. And the work is dangerous. Really dangerous. Last year, a student almost got pulled into a gravity well. Another student aged 3 days and 30 seconds because of a time field accident. I will be careful, Mina promised. Dr. Yuna sighed. I cannot stop you if your mind is made up. But promise me you will follow all safety rules. Every single one. That evening, Mina got the acceptance message on her computer. She would start work at the Jupiter Lab in 1 week. Reading the message made her stomach feel strange, excited and scared at the same time. She called her parents in Seoul to tell them about her new job. She did not mention the dangerous parts. A real research position, her mother said happily. We are so proud of you. Her father wanted to know all about the Jupiter station. You will be working with the most advanced technology in the solar system, he said. This will open many doors for your future. Mina hoped he was right. She hoped this job would somehow make her a better physicist. But deep inside, she worried she was just running away from her problems. The next week went by quickly. Mina packed her things and said goodbye to her classmates. Most of them thought she was making a mistake. I will miss having you around, Kai said. But maybe this is good for you. Sometimes people need to find their own path. Tae was not so kind. I give you 1 month before you come running back, he said. That place eats people alive. On her last day at Kepler Station, Mina walked through the halls one more time. She looked at the classrooms where she had failed so many tests. She looked at the library where she had spent countless hours trying to understand impossible equations. Maybe she would never be back. Maybe the Jupiter Lab would be the end of her physics career. But at least she would go down fighting. The transport ship to Jupiter was small and old. There were only 5 other passengers, all experienced researchers going to different stations. They did not talk much during the long journey. As Jupiter got bigger in the ship's windows, Mina felt her heart beating faster. The giant planet looked beautiful and terrible at the same time. Somewhere in orbit around it was a small station full of dangerous machines. In 12 hours, she would be alone with equipment that could kill her in 100 different ways. For the first time in months, Mina felt truly excited about physics. The Jupiter laboratory station was smaller than Mina expected. It was just a metal tube spinning slowly in space, with Jupiter's giant red spots staring at her through the windows. The whole place hummed with a low sound that made her teeth ache. Dr. Min met her at the airlock. He was a thin man with sharp eyes and no smile. He looked at her like she was a problem he had to solve. "You are the new student," he said. It was not a question. "I read your file. Very low grades." Mina felt her face get hot, but she said nothing. "The equipment here is worth more than your entire education," Dr. Min continued. "Break something and you go home immediately. Understood?" "Yes, sir," Mina said. He showed her around the station. Most of it was one big room filled with machines that looked like giant metal donuts. These were the gravitational field generators, devices that could bend space and make artificial gravity. They were connected by thick cables and covered in warning signs. "Your job is simple," Dr. Min explained. "Every day you calibrate the generators. Follow the checklist exactly. Do not think. Do not experiment. Just follow the rules." He handed her a thick manual with hundreds of pages. "Read this tonight. Tomorrow you start working alone." That evening in her tiny room, Mina tried to read the manual. It was full of technical words and complex procedures. Step 1. Adjust flux capacitor to 2.7 terawatts. Step 2. Align harmonic resonators to optimal frequency. Step 3. Monitor quantum fluctuations for stability. Most of it made no sense to her, but she memorized the steps anyway. Her first day of work was scary. The laboratory felt huge and empty with just her inside. The gravity generators hummed and sparked as she followed the checklist. Everything seemed to work fine, but something felt wrong. She could not explain what it was. The computer screens showed normal readings. All the warning lights were green. But the gravity in the room felt twisted somehow, like a song played in the wrong key. On her third day, Mina was calibrating generator number 5 when she noticed something strange. Her coffee cup was sitting on a table 3 meters away. The coffee inside was moving in tiny circles, even though the air was perfectly still. According to the checklist, she should ignore small anomalies and continue working. But the moving coffee bothered her. It felt important. Instead of following the manual, Mina walked over to the generator's control panel. The settings were exactly what the checklist said they should be. But her hands moved to the controls anyway, like they had a mind of their own. She turned one dial just a tiny bit to the left. The coffee stopped moving. For a moment, Mina just stared at the cup. That should not have worked. The dial she turned controlled something called harmonic phase alignment. According to her textbooks, changing it should have made the gravitational field unstable. But the field felt more stable now, not less. Over the next few days, Mina began making small changes to the generator settings. She did not use the manual or any equations. Instead, she listened to how the gravity felt around her. Each generator had its own feeling, like a different voice in a choir. When generator 3 felt too sharp, she softened it by adjusting the power flow. When generator 7 felt too loose, she tightened it with a different control. She had no idea what the scientific names for these adjustments were. She just knew what felt right. The results were impossible. One morning, she dropped her pen while taking notes. Instead of falling to the floor, it stopped in midair and floated there like it was swimming in invisible water. The pen stayed floating for 10 minutes before slowly settling down. Another day, she created a spot near generator 2 where gravity pointed sideways instead of down. She could walk up the wall in that spot like it was the floor. The most amazing thing happened on her second week. While adjusting generator 6, Mina felt something click into place in the gravitational field. Suddenly, her watch started running slow. She had created a bubble of time dilation, a place where time moved differently. According to everything she had learned in school, these things were impossible. Gravity fields this small and controlled should collapse immediately. The energy requirements alone should have blown out every circuit in the station. But here they were, working perfectly. Mina began to understand that she was not following the rules of physics. She was rewriting them. She could feel gravitational fields the way other people felt wind or temperature. When a field was too strong, it felt heavy and thick in her mind. When it was too weak, it felt thin and empty. She learned to adjust them like tuning a musical instrument. The computer readings meant nothing to her. The mathematical equations in her textbooks were just marks on paper. But gravity itself spoke to her in a language older than words. Late at night, alone in the laboratory, Mina would practice her new abilities. She made small objects dance in the air. She created gravity wells no bigger than her fist. She even made a marble roll uphill by bending space around it. Each success filled her with wonder and fear. She was doing things that no human had ever done before. Things that should not be possible. But they felt as natural as breathing. After 3 weeks at Jupiter Station, Mina realized the truth. She had not failed at physics because she was stupid. She had failed because she was something new, something beyond what physics could explain. She was not meant to understand gravity through mathematics. She was meant to control it with her heart. Dr. Min arrived at the Jupiter lab on a Tuesday morning and found something impossible. Generator 4 was creating a perfect sphere of anti-gravity 3 meters wide. Inside the sphere, loose bolts and screws floated like they were in zero gravity. But the sphere's edges were sharp and clean, like someone had cut a hole in gravity itself. He checked his instruments 3 times. According to every reading, the generators were operating normally. But his eyes told him something completely different. "Mina," he called out. She came running from Generator 7, where she had been making small adjustments. When she saw Dr. Min staring at the floating sphere, her heart sank. "I can explain," she started to say. "Explain what?" Dr. Min's voice was very quiet, which was more scary than if he had been shouting. "Explain how you created stable anti-gravity with equipment that should not be able to do this? Explain how you violated 3 fundamental laws of physics before lunch." Mina looked down at her feet. "I just made some small changes to the settings." Dr. Min walked around the floating sphere holding his scanner. The device was beeping frantically, showing readings that made no sense. "What small changes? Show me exactly what you did." Mina went to the control panel for Generator 4. Her hands moved over the controls, but she could not explain what she was doing. "I turned this dial until it felt right. Then I adjusted this slider until the gravity felt smooth." "Felt right?" Dr. Min repeated. "Felt smooth? These are not scientific terms." "I know," Mina said quietly. "But that is how I do it. The gravity talks to me." Dr. Min stared at her for a long moment. Then he picked up his communication device and made a call that would change everything. 3 days later, a ship arrived from Earth carrying 5 of the most famous physicists in the solar system. Dr. Lee was among them, along with Dr. Park, the woman who had written the textbook on gravitational theory. They all looked very serious and a little scared. "Show us," Dr. Park said simply. Mina stood in the middle of the laboratory, surrounded by the greatest scientific minds of her generation. Her hands were shaking, but she walked to Generator 2 and began making adjustments. She did not use any instruments or calculations. Instead, she closed her eyes and felt the gravitational field around her. It was bumpy and uneven like a road with too many holes. Slowly, she smoothed it out with tiny movements of the controls. When she opened her eyes, the scientists were staring at a stream of water that flowed upward from a cup on the floor to another cup floating in midair. The water followed a curved path through space, held in place by Mina's carefully shaped gravity field. "Impossible," whispered Dr. Park. She held up her scanner, but the readings showed normal gravity everywhere except along the exact path of the water. "How did you calculate the field gradients?" asked Dr. Lee. "I did not calculate anything," Mina said. "I just felt where the water wanted to go and made a path for it." The scientists looked at each other with confusion and excitement. Dr. Park asked Mina to create more demonstrations. Each one was more impossible than the last. Mina made a paper airplane that flew in loops and circles, following invisible gravity currents she created with her hands. She made marbles roll up walls and across ceilings. She even created a small area where gravity pointed in 3 directions at once, making a pencil float perfectly still in the center. "This violates everything we know about gravitational field theory," said Dr. Chin, the youngest scientist in the group. "The energy requirements alone should be impossible." "Unless," said Dr. Park slowly, "she is not using energy the way we think she is." They ran tests on Mina for 2 days. They scanned her brain while she worked. They measured every field and force around her. They asked her hundreds of questions about how she did what she did. The results were shocking. "Her brain shows unusual activity in the areas that process spatial awareness," Dr. Park explained to the others. "But more than that, she seems to be perceiving gravitational fields directly, like they are colors or sounds. Dr. Lee shook his head in amazement. She is not calculating gravity. She is experiencing it as a sensory input. That should not be possible, Dr. Chin said. Humans do not have organs that can detect gravitational fields. This human does, Dr. Park replied. They discovered that Mina's adjustments to the generators were creating effects that no computer model could predict. She was working with gravitational forces in ways that bypassed normal physics entirely. It is like she speaks a language that gravity understands, Dr. Min said during one of their meetings. She does not command it. She asks it politely and it listens. The most amazing discovery came on the last day of testing. Dr. Park asked Mina to create the most complex gravitational field she could manage. Mina closed her eyes and let her hands dance over multiple control panels at once. What happened next would be talked about in physics classrooms for generations. Mina created a miniature galaxy in the laboratory. Tiny specks of dust began orbiting around invisible gravity wells, forming spiral arms and star-like patterns. The whole thing was only 2 meters wide, but it behaved exactly like a real galaxy, just much faster. The scientists watched in silent awe as Mina conducted her gravity symphony with gentle movements of her hands. She was not just bending the rules of physics. She was composing new ones. She represents a new step in human evolution, Dr. Park said quietly. The first human who can perceive and manipulate fundamental forces directly. When the testing was over, Mina felt exhausted but proud. For the first time in her life, scientists were looking at her with respect instead of pity. What happens now? She asked. Dr. Park smiled. Now we change everything we thought we knew about physics. 6 months later, Mina stood on the bridge of humanity's first gravity-drive starship. Through the wide windows she could see Earth getting smaller behind them. But they were not moving the way spaceships usually moved. Instead of pushing through space with rockets, Mina was folding space itself. She placed her hands on the special control panel that engineers had built just for her. It looked nothing like the old gravity generators. This panel was smooth and warm, designed to respond to the gentle touch of her fingers rather than the harsh commands of computers. Mina closed her eyes and felt the space around the ship. It was like a huge piece of cloth that she could gather and fold. She found a spot far ahead where they wanted to go, a star system 20 light-years away. Then she began to pull that distant place closer to them. Space bent and twisted around the ship. The stars outside the windows stretched into long lines of light. In just 30 minutes they traveled farther than any human had ever gone before. Incredible, breathed Captain Seo, the ship's commander. We just crossed 20 light-years like it was a short walk. The new drive system had taken months to build. Engineers from all over Earth had worked with Mina to create machines that could amplify her natural abilities. The result was a propulsion system that made interstellar travel as easy as flying between planets. But space travel was just the beginning. Back on Earth, construction crews were building impossible things with Mina's help. She could create gravity fields that held up bridges with no support columns. Buildings twisted and curved through the air like flowing water, held in place by her carefully shaped gravitational anchors. The city of New Seoul now had towers that seemed to float in midair. Mina had woven gravity fields so precisely that entire neighborhoods could exist without touching the ground. Children played in parks that hung suspended between the clouds. It is like living in a dream, said Mayor Young as he showed visitors around the floating districts. Buildings that dance with the wind, roads that spiral through 3 dimensions, homes that adjust their own weight based on the weather. The most amazing project was the orbital ring around Earth. Traditional engineering said such a structure was impossible, too big, too heavy, requiring materials that did not exist. But Mina made it work by creating a web of gravity fields that held the ring together like invisible cables. The ring became humanity's first true space city, home to 50 million people. It had farms that grew food in carefully controlled gravity, factories that built products in zero-weight conditions, and schools where children learned to live in 3 dimensions instead of just 2. When the asteroid came, everyone thought Earth was doomed. The space rock was 10 kilometers wide, moving faster than anything humanity had ever tried to stop. Nuclear weapons would only break it into smaller pieces that were still deadly. Conventional rockets could not push something so massive off course. But Mina had a different idea. She took a ship out to meet the asteroid while it was still months away from Earth. Alone in space, she extended her senses toward the massive rock and began to feel its gravitational signature. It was heavy and dense, like a stone giant falling through the dark. Instead of trying to stop it or push it away, Mina did something much more elegant. She created a gravity gradient that gently curved the asteroid's path. It was like putting a bend in a river so that the water flowed around a village instead of through it. The asteroid passed harmlessly by Earth, missing the planet by just 50,000 kilometers. People on the night side of Earth could see it streak past like a second moon, beautiful and terrifying. "She saved us all," the news reporters said. One person with an impossible gift protected 8 billion lives. But Mina was not alone anymore. In the years following her discovery, scientists found other people with similar abilities. They were rare, maybe 1 in a million people had the gift to some degree. Most of them had always thought they were just bad at math like Mina had been. Dr. Park helped Mina establish the Institute for Gravitational Intuition. It was a new kind of school where students learned to trust their feelings instead of memorizing equations. The classrooms had no blackboards covered in formulas. Instead, they were filled with gravity generators where students could practice shaping fields with their hands. "Forget everything you learned about physics," Mina would tell new students. "The universe does not speak in numbers. It speaks in feelings and flows. Your job is to listen." Young people came from all over the solar system to study at the institute. Some could barely move a feather with their abilities. Others could create gravity wells strong enough to bend light. Each student was different, but they all shared the same gift. They could feel forces that normal humans could not detect. The old physics professors were not happy at first. "This is not science," they complained. "This is just guessing and feeling around in the dark." But the results spoke for themselves. Mina's students were solving problems that traditional physics could not even approach. They were designing new technologies, exploring new theories, and pushing the boundaries of what humans could accomplish. "Maybe we were wrong about how science works," Dr. Lee admitted during a conference on the new physics. "Maybe the universe is not a math problem to be solved. Maybe it is a song to be conducted." Standing in her office at the institute, looking out at students who were learning to dance with gravity itself, Mina smiled. She still could not pass a traditional physics exam. But she had given humanity something much more valuable than good test scores. She had given them the stars.